ثم أما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran in the end of Surah Al-Hashr, هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون. Allah describes himself with the name Al-Jabbar. Al-Jabbar is only mentioned once in the Quran. And perhaps because the strength of this name is sufficient that when a person hears that Allah is Al-Jabbar, then it is sufficient for them to take note and heed, and as a reminder. There was once, during the Abbasid times, a Khalifa, his name was Abu Mansur. Now, Abu Mansur, he once asked, why did Allah create the fly? Why? Because he saw the fly was coming and annoying him. It was coming and annoying him, and it was coming into its cups and whatnot, and so he got really annoyed and he said, why did Allah create these flies? And Abu Mansur was known to be a very strict and harsh ruler. And Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq responds, to humble tyrants like you. In Qurtuba, there was once a drought that severely afflicted the people. And people were making dua for a very long time for Allah to send the rains. Then on one instant, during the Salatul Istisqa, as everyone comes forward and prays the rain prayer, seeking for rain, the ruler at the time comes out dressed in a very humble garment. And he comes out just amongst the masses. And he makes dua and he says to Allah, Nasi biyadik, my head is in your hands. Do not let an iota of me escape or be away or move from your grace. And from this, one of the scholars heard this and said that the rain will now come, because when the tyrant comes and humbles themselves, then Allah's mercy is near. The issue of the Jabbareen of this earth, the tyrants of this earth, is something in a reality that we see throughout history and we witness right in front of us. But we must never forget that Allah is Al-Jabbar. That Allah is Al-Jabbar. Al-Jabbar is a very beautiful name of Allah, and we're going to come to its profound meaning. But realize that on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say that He is Al-Jabbar. And He will hold this entire universe in His hands. And He will say, where are the kings? Where are the tyrants? Where are those who thought that they had control and power in this world? This will be the inevitable fate at the end in the Akhirah. But before then, we have to witness the tyranny, and sometimes Allah blesses us to witness the fall of the tyrants. Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he mentions that he pondered about this issue. Why is it that Allah extends the time of tyrants throughout this world? Why is it that this extension is given to them and they persist and increase in their oppression and tyranny and persecution? And he says, he realizes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His mercy, enables the tyranny to happen so that the case against them is even worse, and the hatred against them is even worse. If you think about it, you look at the tyrants, for example, like Netanyahu and Gallant and all these people in Israel. There was a time 2-3 years ago, the hatred towards them was confined to the Muslims. That was it. Only the Muslims hated them. Now, you see the hatred of the entire world. Hatta even in Israel itself, and even in America itself, the hatred of the tyrants has gripped the entire globe. And so Ibn al-Jawzi mentions that it increases such that it comes to a moment where they are snatched all of a sudden. And the people witness the downfall of the tyrants. And this is the sunnah of Allah fi khalqi. There will be those who oppress others and think that they gain power by doing what is haram, by committing fasad on the earth and maintaining this, and they feel this false sense of security and power. And you see this with the tyrants there, but also in the tyrants in other regions as well. And recently, as we've seen what was happening in Syria, we are seeing a similar fate coming to a horrific tyrant himself. We must always understand that Al-Jabbar is in control. You know, in Surah Al-Kahf, which is a surah that we recite every Friday, you will notice that a very common theme of the surah is dhulm, oppression. Look at the first story. It's a story of how a group of young believers in Tawheed were persecuted, oppressed by the dominant majority, such that they had to retreat to a cave. You look at the next story, the man with 2 gardens, you see the oppression that he did to himself and his boasting to the neighbor, the dhulm that he committed upon himself. Then you see in the story of Musa and Khidr, you see the dhulm of a tyrant king who was trying to possess all of the different boats, which is why Khidr alayhi salam broke one of the boats and made a defect so that the tyrant wouldn't possess and take away the boat of those poor people. And then you see Dhul Qarnayn coming to the rescue of people who are being oppressed with dhulm of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So one of the main themes that you see in Surah Al-Kahf is dhulm, persecution, fitna, persecution and oppression and trial. And then you see Al-Jabbar is in control in every situation. That in the situation of the youth that fled to the cave, Al-Jabbar made it such that they outlived their tyrants and their oppressors, miraculously. You see in the story of the man with 2 gardens, Al-Jabbar destroyed the garden and preserved the other person's garden. You see in the story of Musa and Khidr alayhi salam, all the things that a person perceived to be wrong, it was actually flipped. That they thought that the oppression was on the other side of the coin when it came to the boat. But Al-Jabbar showed, no, the tyrant was elsewhere. The same thing with the young child. They thought, oh my goodness, this was awful. But no, the child was going to be a tyrant. And then they thought the same thing. This oppressive village that refused to host these poor people that were coming through. And now they get a free labor for them and the wall is built. But actually Al-Jabbar made it so that that wealth underneath could be secure, so that the orphans would be able to get it from it. And then Al-Jabbar, in the story of Dhul Qarnayn, it was through the means of Dhul Qarnayn, but Al-Jabbar then made the wall to stop the tyranny of Al-Ya'juj for its people. So we see in each situation the rise of the tyrant and then the fall. And we see how Al-Jabbar fixes it all. Now here's the point. What does Al-Jabbar mean? Al-Jabbar, translated as the irresistible, the compeller. Al-Jabbar has 2 meanings attached to it. And they are complementary. The first one is Al-Jabbar is the one who breaks. Al-Jabbar is the one who breaks. Is the one who breaks the backs of every tyrant. Is the one who can break an individual. Is the one that can compel whatever situation he wishes to. This is the one who breaks. But the second meaning of Al-Jabbar is the one who heals and mends. Al-Jabbar is the one that breaks, but Al-Jabbar is also the one that mends and heals. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he says, and this is a beautiful point to reflect on the name Al-Jabbar and the individual. Ibn al-Qayyim says that, and this is for all those who are in the audience right now who may feel broken at this moment, or who have felt broken before. Ibn al-Qayyim says, realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never breaks his servant except to put him back together. That the hikmah and the wisdom that a person is broken is because there was something there that needed to be healed, and so Allah breaks a person only to put him back together in a way that's better and stronger. That Allah never withholds except to give. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never puts a person through difficulty except that He wishes the ease at the end of it all. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not break a person or does not deprive a person except so that he can witness the blessings and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the cycle of life, breaking and being put back together. Our sins break us and the tawbah mends it together. Our calamities break us, but our iman puts us back together. But all of this is with Al-Jabbars and the tawfiq of Al-Jabbar. I want to get a bit scientific, forgive me, but it's a beautiful analogy. You know the bones themselves, which is what's used in the Arabic language to refer to Al-Jabbar, bringing together the bones and healing the bones. When you look at what happens when you break your bone, when you had a fracture, and many of you maybe have had bone fractures, Allah has created the system in your body to actually heal itself. That's why for the vast majority of fractures, the doctors don't do anything. What do? Put a cast, that's it. Just, what does that mean? Just keep it there, your body will do its job. What does it mean? Al-Jabbar has made the body such that even though it's broken, Allah has created the mechanism within our body that it's going to put itself back together. But how does it do it? There are two things: osteoclasts and osteoblasts. The osteoclasts actually break down the bone more. And that activity increases after you fractured yourself. And this is an interesting point when you make an analogy to life. You think, okay, it needs to be healed. Then why is it being broken? Why is the breaking increasing? The osteoclast activity goes up, it breaks everything down, then the osteoblasts come. And that's what lays down the bone afterwards. Subhanallah. And there's a perfect balance between the osteoclasts and the osteoblasts all the time. That's happening right now. Constantly right now, your bones are being broken, put back together, bit by bit. And when you get the fracture itself, then the osteoclasts come, they break everything around, and then they put it back together. This is the way of Al-Jabbar. And Allah has made the signs and the ayat inside of yourselves. That is also your life. That your life is full of these trials and ease, difficulty and mercy. Al-Jabbar has made it in this way that He will put you back together. And He will put you back together in a way that no one else can. Al-Jabbar to the ta'ib, to the one who does tawbah. And we talked about tawbah last week. Subhanallah, we talked about one story of tawbah last week, which is the story of Ka'b ibn Malik. There's another story of tawbah. The hadith comes to us in authentic narration of the man who killed 100 people. 100 people, unjustified murder. 100. One is enough when we say this person is a murderer. 100. Now this person commits to tawbah. He commits to tawbah. And he's advised by the scholar, you need to leave this environment and go somewhere else and carve out a new life for you. And on his way there, he dies. And the angels come and they dispute. Angel of mercy and angel of punishment. Angel of punishment. Hey, this guy deserves the punishment. Angel of mercy. No. He was going to do tawbah. No, the tawbah was not complete. He didn't go there yet. And they're disputing. And obviously, this is because Allah hasn't given the clear command at this stage. Then, it is told, we will measure the distance. Whichever town he's closer to, then that will be his fate. Now in reality, he was closer to his hometown. But Al-Jabbar made the earth move. I want us to really sink this in. Al-Jabbar made the earth move for the tawbah of a serial murderer. What do you think Al-Jabbar will move for you in your life if you have true faith and tawakkul in Him? Think about this. The power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we know. But sometimes we don't realize what Allah can move within our own lives. Al-Jabbar breaks and Al-Jabbar heals. Al-Jabbar breaks the backs of the tyrants and heals those that they have oppressed. As the bombs drop in Al-Ghazza, Al-Jabbar can heal those broken wounds, those broken souls. Al-Jabbar can heal, and Al-Jabbar can break the tyrants themselves. And so, connecting to the name of Al-Jabbar is something that is a very profound, powerful, and therapeutic exercise. It's part of our aqeedah, it's part of our theology, and we often don't pay attention to this particular name of Al-Jabbar. But Al-Jabbar and connecting to the name of Al-Jabbar, especially with what's happening now, can help us frame and understand what's happening abroad, and can help us also understand what's happening close to home. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. The first part of the khutbah we spoke about the power of Al-Jabbar to break and to heal. Now I want to give a practical point to this. Practical point number one, dua. As we make our dua, make dua, Ya Jabbar. Ya Jabbar. When you're making dua against those who are the tyrants and oppressors, connect to Ya Jabbar, to Al-Jabbar. And of course in your own life, when you're looking to be put back together, when you're feeling broken, when you're feeling like there's something wrong with you or your sins have piled up, call out to Ya Jabbar. Number one is dua. Number two, action point. Be the vehicle of Allah's Jabr. Be the vehicle of Allah's Jabr. What does that mean? When you see a broken soul, you be the one to help put them back together. Because then Allah Al-Jabbar is working through you to heal that person. A few khutbahs ago we talked about the smile of the Prophet ﷺ and how it healed the broken soul of Zayd ibn Arqam radiallahu anh, and how he was afflicted with an intense hum, but the smile and laughter of the Prophet ﷺ and the embrace put him back together. Your smile can be the vehicle of Allah's Jabr to another soul. And this is why the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ tells us, the one who carries the burden of his brothers in this life, Allah will remove a burden from him in the next life. The one who aids his brother, or the one who aids her sister, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will aid them. There is this principle and rule in our aqeedah, in our theology, al-jaza'u jinsul amal. The response or the reward is in accordance with the action. The more we help to heal others, the more we ourselves are healed. The more we lift the burden of others, the more our burdens are removed. It could be a phone call. It could be a lunch. It could be a coffee. It could be just a simple text message. Reaching out to someone you know is going through a difficult time. And you'll speak to people who, when they're going through the thick and thin of the calamity, they remember not necessarily the words that you say, but they remember how you made them feel. So be vehicles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Jabr. Be healers. Be menders. The broken hearts in ourselves and our families and our friends, and the brokenness that we see outside of us as well. There's work to do in the community as well. This is all under the name of Al-Jabbar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to connect to him. Ameen. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. اللهم انصر المسلمين في كل مكان. اللهم انصرهم وارحمهم واعف عنهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصرهم في الشام. اللهم انصرهم في السودان. اللهم انصرهم في الكشمير. اللهم انصرهم في تركستان. اللهم انصرهم في كل مكان في اليمن وفي كل مكان يا أرحم الراحمين يا جبار يا عظيم. يا جبار عليك بأعداء الدين. يا جبار عليك بأعداء الدين. يا جبار عليك بالظالمين. عليك بالظالمين يا جبار يا عظيم. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وانعم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.